Hello, astronaut class. It's Miss Janelle here. Grab your astronaut helmet and come along with me. We're going to investigate outer space today. I'm going to start with a poem for you. Climb aboard the spaceship. We're going to the moon. Hurry and get ready. We'll blast off soon. Put on your helmets and buckle up real tight. Here comes the countdown. Let's count with all our might. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! And when we get into orbit, we will float around in our space shuttle. If you have a pen in outer space, it floats away. Doesn't do that on Earth though. On Earth, it will drop right back down because of gravity. So that is the name of the first book that we're going to be reading today. This is a nonfiction book, which means it's an informational book that will tell us all about the scientific phenomenon of gravity. This book was written by Jason Chin. Gravity makes objects fall to Earth. Just like this pen, just like this dime, they fall to the Earth. Without gravity, everything would float away. That's what happens in space. The moon would drift away from the Earth. The Earth would drift away from the sun. Luckily, everything has gravity. Massive things have a lot of gravity. Massive is a word that means very, 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 very big. So the bigger something is, the more gravity it has. And their gravity pulls on smaller things. Our sun is massive. It has so much gravity that it pulls our Earth towards it. Gravity keeps the Earth near the sun, keeps the moon near the Earth, and makes objects fall to the Earth, just like the leaves that fall from the trees. That's the end. Gravity. Well, when you look out in the sky at night, you see the moon. And if you're looking there tonight, you're going to see a moon that is almost perfectly round, because last night was a full moon. Big, beautiful, bright moon. So if you have a chance to go out and look at the sky at night, you can see a big moon, and the tiny little specks of light that you see shining at night are stars. You know a song about stars twinkling in the night? I think we all do. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. I'm going to show you two different ways to make constellation viewers today. A constellation is when you look up at the stars in the sky and you connect the dots to make a picture of something. So, one constellation that I know that is very famous is called Cassiopeia. And Cassiopeia looks like a letter W. Down, up, down, up. And so I'm going to make the shape of Cassiopeia on this little square of paper. And I'm going to do it with a push pin, the kind that you use to hold papers up on a bulletin board. Now, it's really, really, really sharp, so I'm going to be very careful. And I am going to do this down on the carpet. So, come with me here. We'll go down to the carpet here, and you can see me pressing and making the shape of Cassiopeia. Now, I'll bring it right back up here, and you can see I made holes in this paper. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on the end of a cardboard tube. I'm going to secure it with a couple of pieces of tape. And then all I have to do is just hold it up to a light. Just look through it, and the light from my lamp or the light of the sun shining through the window will shine right through those holes, and it will look like I'm looking at a constellation. I can see it. I can see the shape of Cassiopeia right there. Easy peasy. I'll show you the way to make another constellation viewer after we read this book. It's called Mousetronaut. It's about a little mouse named Meteor who gets to be a real live astronaut. And this book was written by a real live astronaut. His name is Mark Kelly. So all of the space travel things in this book are based on his real life experiences as an actual astronaut. Of course, the character Mousetronaut is a cartoon character, so that part of this book is made up. And it was illustrated by C.F. Payne. The space shuttle is set for a launch, and the astronauts are doing their last-minute training to prepare for the mission. NASA is sending along some special guests for this flight, and they're training too. One mouse is smaller than all the rest. His name is Meteor. The other mice know he won't be chosen for this important mission. But someone has his eye on Meteor, and he's impressed with the little mouse's hard work. The shuttle commander announces that 6 mice will be selected for the flight. He picks 5 of the biggest, strongest mice. But for the 6th spot, to everyone's surprise, he chooses Meteor. All 6 are taken to their new home, a special cage called the Mouse Hotel. The other mice are nervous as the countdown begins, but not Meteor. Count down with me. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lift off. At first, the mice are pressed flat against their cages by the power of the launch. But then, the pressure goes away. The other mice cling to their cage in terror. But not Meteor. He loves the feeling of weightlessness. Hey, little guy, the commander says. You're a natural, a real live mousetronaut. Meteor is taken from his cage and gets a tour of the shuttle. He can even see the Earth way off in the distance. The astronauts are all very busy during the 14-day flight. There are spacewalks to take and experiments to conduct. But what can Meteor do to help? Then, while answering email, one of the astronauts notices the key to the control panel stuck between the monitors. When he tries to get it out, it accidentally gets wedged farther down. This isn't good, says the commander. We need that key back. One astronaut tries to move the monitor. It doesn't budge. Another slips her fingers into the crack, but the key is stuck down too deep. One even tries pushing it out with a long piece of metal, but with no luck. No one can reach it. The astronauts are getting worried. But as they discuss the problem, a tiny figure has an idea. Being the smallest isn't a bad thing, Meteor says to himself. Maybe I can be useful on this flight. Meteor squeezes his way into the crack. The space is dark and cramped, but Meteor spots the key and tugs at it with all his might. Hey, look at what our tiny friend has done, the commander says. He's saved the mission. When the shuttle returns to Earth, Meteor is declared a hero. He's even given a brand new uniform and an official title, Mousternaut. All the astronauts cheer and applaud. That means clap. But Meteor is already thinking about his next big mission. You look at the back cover of this book. It is just covered with stars. If you want to project some star lights onto the wall in a dark room, you can make your very own Constellation Projector. All you're going to need is a flashlight and a piece of paper, preferably a dark color. You're going to need one of those push pins again and some tape. Okay, so again, this time I'm just going to press some holes into my paper, being very, 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 very careful not to poke myself or anybody else in the process. Again, I highly recommend that you do that down on the carpet. It won't hurt the carpet, and it won't hurt your hands either. That's the most important part. Okay, so we got some holes poked in that paper, and then we're just going to wrap it around the flashlight. Wrap some tape around it. Bada bing, bada boom. Turn that flashlight on, and then you can see the light shining through like stars in the sky. And if you turn out the lights and shine it at the wall, like in the bathroom maybe, you can project your own constellations on the wall using a flashlight constellation projector. Now, the book Mousternaut and the sequel, Mousternaut Goes to Mars, are about some little mice who get to go on the space shuttle. Let's sing about some little mice. We're going to make it 10 little mice. So put your hands up like this, and we're going to count the mice as we sing. Ready? 1 little, 2 little, 3 little mice, 4 little, 5 little, 6 little mice, 7 little, 8 little, 9 little mice, 10 little mice all aboard the space shuttle. Now let's see about Mousternaut's mission to Mars. Again, this is written by astronaut Mark Kelly and illustrated by C.F. Payne. The Galaxy rocket was just 1 week away from launching. It would be the very first human mission to Mars. Even though Mars was Earth's neighbor, the astronauts would need to travel more than 35 million miles to get there. And Meteor the Mousternaut couldn't wait to go. The astronauts had been training for 2 years for this trip. Meteor watched everything they did. Each day, he looked over the astronauts' shoulders as they studied, sat under the table and listened while they ate, and kept a notebook of the flight plan and procedures. Meteor was certain that he'd be going to Mars too. He might not be the biggest astronaut, but he had the power of small. He worked hard to stay in shape. He ran with Claudia. He did chin-ups with Claire. He lifted weights with Charlotte. The Mousternaut was ready. But when the names of the crew were called out, Meteor's name wasn't one of them. The Mousternaut was not on the list. NASA must have forgotten about their newest astronaut. There wasn't a chance Meteor was going to miss this exciting trip. He was small. He could hide. he would stow away. That means hide and go along for the ride while nobody knows he's there. Slowly, carefully, he climbed the launch tower. Then, when the NASA security guard wasn't looking, he hid under the commander's seat. He tried to be as quiet as he could, but he was scared. He wasn't scared of the rocket launch. He was scared that he would be caught. Time for liftoff. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. The rocket shook. Meteor was pushed against the floor. He held on tight so he wouldn't slide out from under the seat. There was a lot of vibration, much more than he remembered from his launch on the space shuttle, but not enough to bother a mousetronaut. 9 minutes later, they were in space. Meteor loved the feeling of weightlessness. During the long journey, Meteor stayed hidden. He would only come out for crumbs when the astronauts slept. I find this page so interesting. They have to sleep in sleeping bags, seat-belted in, and their hands kind of float up. If they weren't seat-belted in, they would float around the space shuttle while they're sleeping. They might bump into something or get hurt, so they have to strap themselves in just to sleep. As Earth got smaller behind them, the red dot that was Mars grew bigger and bigger. After 6 months, they finally arrived. Meteor had stayed hidden the entire time. When no one was looking, Meteor peeked through the window and saw different shades of red and orange. Mars was nothing like Earth, but it was still beautiful in its own way. He also heard the astronauts making plans. 2 of them would go down to the surface and explore Mars on foot and with a rover. But there was a problem. Galaxy's commander was talking to Mission Control in Houston. One of the landing craft's engines had failed its test and wouldn't work. The remaining engine wasn't strong enough to carry even 1 astronaut. There would be no trip to the surface of the red planet. They would need to turn around and return to Earth. But the mousetronaut had an idea. He shot out of his hiding space to surprise the crew. "Meteor, where were you hiding?" the commander asked. They were happy to see him, but still sad about their failed mission. Then, Meteor floated over to the hatch leading to the landing craft. "It is possible," said the commander. "One rocket engine could work for someone small enough." It was decided. Meteor the mousetronaut would be the first to set foot on Mars. As he put on his spacesuit, the crew gave him instructions. "You need to gather plenty of rock samples," said one. "And don't forget to bring back some soil," added another. Last of all, they made a tiny American flag and fastened it to a straw. Meteor tied himself into the seat of the landing craft with some string. It launched from the Galaxy spacecraft and made its way to the surface of Mars. The Martian landscape was unlike anything Meteor had seen before. There were no plants. There was no water that he could see. But most important, there were no cats. But he got right to work gathering the samples. The last thing he did before reboarding the landing craft was to plant the tiny flag he'd been given. "Meteor, you saved the day!" The crew cheered him as he returned to the ship. "You'll be in newspaper headlines around the world." The mousetronaut felt very proud. "And we'll make sure you are on our next mission." 6 months later, Galaxy rocket returned to Earth. The astronauts were all welcomed as heroes, but the smallest among them was the biggest hero of all, Mousetronaut. Even though you might be small, there are lots of important things you can do too. Don't ever forget that. I'll talk to you again soon.